Hi, my name is Asia Diggs. I'm a rising senior with a Human Development Family Studies major with a pre-med concentration and a Spanish minor. I am from the DMV, but I currently live in Raleigh, North Carolina. After graduation, I hope to go to medical school and become a pediatrician. This is my road to silver. As a young girl with a petite frame and tall stature, I have always struggled with how to be confident when I'm in roles of leadership or in front of a group of people. By learning leadership and about my actual leadership style, I have a better understanding of how to show up confidently in my different leadership roles. This correlates with my goals because I have always had the goal of being a more confident leader and being a more confident person in general. And the way that you do that is by doing things outside of your comfort zone, like this presentation, like if we were on campus presenting this board to a group of people. I've always struggled with public speaking, but I'm learning how to center myself and realize it's not about me, it's about the information I have to portray. If I'm passionate about the information, that will correlate into my message. My other goal of being time management and managing my time well is because I've always struggled when I have a lot to do with letting some things fall to the wayside instead of actually focusing on everything and giving everything time to get done. And I feel like with the corona, learning how to time manage with all of my classes and then Silver Leadership Challenge and then making time for mental health and stuff like that has really helped me learn time management is very important and to use my Google Calendar for everything and to try to not procrastinate as much as I used to. As I mentioned earlier in the last slide, I have struggled with my self-confidence, which affects how I act as a leader. Another area I put time into growing and improving in is my health, all aspects of it, but most importantly, my mental health. As an individual that struggles with anxiety, depression, self-confidence, I know that making time cannot be a second thought anymore for me. I know that I deserve peace, and I do that by doing things for me now, self-care, yoga, learning meditations, and I also do that by learning how to say no and ignore and remove those who are toxic and who are fake and don't bring me peace anymore. It has been a struggle learning just how to go about saying no, but I also know that my mental health is something that I cannot play with anymore. It has always been the last on my list of priorities for my health. And my health is something that's very important to me now because if I'm not healthy, I can't show up as a great leader, and if I can't show up as a great leader, I can't do my job effectively in all my leadership roles on campus. So I really do feel as though my personal growth has been, especially with mental health, learning how to say no, learning how to take a step back and center myself and breathe in, breathe out, and just feel my emotions but not let them overtake me. For my community engagement, I decided to volunteer with the Alternative Spring Break Club on campus. We did over 20 plus service hours, including planning the trip, getting into groups. We also did a snap challenge where we had to act as though we were on food stamps and we were only given a certain amount of money to spend in a store and to buy breakfast, lunch, and dinner for an entire family. It was a family of 7, and it was a very interesting experience with everyone's differing taste buds and stuff like that. But it was a very enlightening experience to make us really appreciate the food and the unlimited sources of income and food choices we have available to us for those who are not on food stamps. With Alternative Spring Break, we advocated and served those who were without adequate housing, jobs, and food in the DC area. It was very enlightening because we learned more about how gentrification is really just displacement of families and those who have lived in places their entire lives and have to move because usually a certain group of people come over and take over. And usually the people that are being displaced are minorities. So it's very, very sad to see. But I was very blessed to be able to help feed those people who were displaced and have become homeless because of inadequate housing, food, and jobs. As most people know that if you don't have an address, you can't get a job. So a lot of people who were homeless without housing were stuck on the streets until they got a bag of food from someone or a miracle had to happen. We stayed at the Pilgrimage in DuPont Circle, which is a church, and we stayed in the basement, which is very humbling because it's cold and we had the problem with bugs and stuff like that, but I do know that on the streets is much worse. You don't have a roof over your head, you don't have a mattress, you don't have running water constantly. It was a very humbling experience for me to engage with the community of those without adequate housing, jobs, and food. It was very fun to do it with people that I loved. I did it with my boyfriend. I did it with some of my best friends, and it was very fun for all of us to learn more about just what happens for those who do not have adequate housing, jobs, and food. And it was very enlightening to see the appreciation that they had for the smallest things, such as sanitizer, water bottle, a sandwich bag. It was very, very humbling. What motivated me for this particular civil leadership challenge was because I really wanted to give back to those who were kind of in the same position as me. As a minority female in America, I've always felt at a disadvantage. Now, a lot of people who have inadequate housing, who have to live on the streets, do not choose that life, as some people think. But for those where it was their only option or they were born into it, I empathize with them because as a minority female, I was born into this. I was born into being oppressed. I was born into struggling, having a struggle. I was born into being at a disadvantage because of the color of my skin, because of my ethnicity, and so on and so forth. So I can empathize with them, not just sympathize. I can empathize with them. Because of that, I wanted to do my part and give back in some way by advocating, by supporting, by being the smiling face that they may not recognize, or at least they know that there are people out there who do not see them as trash, who do not see them as people who chose this life, but know that circumstances happen and some people are just born into it and it's a curse. But the people on these streets are so sweet and they have such beautiful spirits and beautiful stories to tell. It is wonderful. It's a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful job to be able to motivate others, who motivate me to be better, who motivate me to inspire and become that doctor, so that I can continue to advocate and support those who are less fortunate than I am. It's so motivating having the experience of struggling, having the experience of being at a disadvantage when that was not my choice. And even if it was their choice, they still need help too. That's what motivated me. We all matter. Those with housing, those without housing, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, any identity you can think of, purple, blue, yellow, orange, green, all of us are God's children and we all matter. They all matter. That's what motivates me. Nobody should feel like they don't matter because of a situation they were put in or that they chose. That's what motivates me. As I've talked about before, serving and advocating for the less fortunate is something that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to help people. And at first, my future looked like being a teacher in a preschool class, helping young children learn what their purpose is, what they're supposed to be doing, and to enhance those skills needed to be successful in life. But then as I got older, I became interested in the medical field. I knew I wanted to be a doctor, but I also knew I wanted to continue working with kids. So pediatrician fit the bill perfectly. But before I do that, I would like to bring adequate medical care to those without, especially those who are without adequate everything: housing, food, jobs, clothes, meals, basic hygiene. That is my goal after learning more about myself and how I can show up in my roles, using my introvertedness, using my emotional side, not as a hindrance, but using it as a way to connect with these people and use my own story of struggle and disadvantage to connect with them and let them know that they are not alone, that there are people who know what they're going through, or at least can know part of what they're going through and know that they will make it through. I believe that by joining Doctors Without Borders, traveling the world and serving babies and their parents with adequate medical care is the first most important thing in saving someone's life. I find it very saddening that we do not have universal health care and that people die because they cannot get access to good doctors, and not just clinics, but good doctors and hospitals. And I want to change that. I feel like I can use my goals of time management to make a better me, to plan out exactly what my plans are. And I can also use my engagement with the community to help me advocate and serve those who are underrepresented. the minorities like me, and also those without adequate housing, food, and jobs. The homeless per se, and the displaced. They deserve adequate healthcare, adequate medical care, adequate housing, food, jobs, all of that. And that is what my future looks like, helping those people become better versions of themselves with the smallest, most basic things that I feel like are entitled to every human being on the planet.